Hey, Bold and the beautiful fans, it's Radhika from Radhika Storyline, and we're going to talk about what Electra may do next after going completely berserk over Dylan and Will. But first, please hit subscribe if you're not already following us. So, today on Bold and the Beautiful, we saw Electra Forrester take a bad situation and somehow make it a whole lot worse, which honestly is saying something because she was already acting jealous, possessive, and just flat out impossible before this. And the big trigger here was Dylan finally confessing what everybody with eyes could already see, that she has fallen hard for Will Spencer, and she wants a chance with him. Now, was that awkward? Absolutely. Was it bold?
Yep.
Was it messy? Of course. But was it a crime?
No.
And Electra acting like Dylan just committed some unforgivable betrayal is exactly why I keep saying Electra does not want Will. She wants control. So let's walk through how this exploded, because the sequence really matters here. Dylan comes clean. She tells Electra she has very strong feelings for Will. She's not dancing around it. She's not being sneaky. She's not doing some diabolical little whisper campaign behind Electra's back. She is straight up honest, which, on this show, that alone deserves a little applause. And Dylan's point is pretty simple. Electra dumped Will multiple times. Electra told him they would never be together. Electra made it clear she was stepping away. So in Dylan's mind, and honestly in most sane people's minds, Will was fair game. And that's the part that makes Electra's reactions so ridiculous. Because if you have repeatedly told a man that there is no future, if you have pushed him away, if you have left him hanging, if you have basically treated him like a toy you can put on the shelf and pick back up later, then you do not get to act shocked when another woman says, "Actually, I like him, and I'm going to see if there's something there." You just don't. You would think that would be obvious. You would think even Electra would know that. But nope, not today. And then it gets even more dramatic because Dylan admits she spent the night at Will's place. Now, before the alarm bells start ringing, Dylan was very clear about what happened. She said they slept on the couch. She made a point to say there was no sex.
She was not hiding that.
She was not spinning some weird half-truth.
She laid it out there.
And even with that clarification, Electra immediately jumped to the ugliest conclusion possible and started acting like Dylan had done something filthy, shady, and unforgivable. So, Electra tried to frame it like Dylan had taken advantage of Will. And honestly, I rolled my eyes so hard. Because look, Dylan may have been putting herself out there. She may have been forward. She may have been obvious about wanting Will. But taking advantage?
No.
That's not what happened here. Will is not some helpless bystander with no agency. He is a grown man. He had already been dumped. He was single. He was free to spend time with whoever he wanted. And Dylan being interested in him does not automatically turn her into some manipulative villain. And that's where Electra's whole argument just falls apart. Because for this to be cheating, Will would have had to still be in a relationship with Electra. He wasn't. He had been dumped. Again. So, when Electra throws out the accusation that Dylan cheated with Will, it's not just mean, it's false. And she knows it's false. That's what makes it nastier.
She's not confused.
She's not heartbroken and speaking carelessly. She's deliberately twisting the story, so Dylan looks bad, and Electra looks like the wounded victim. And then, because apparently verbal cruelty was not enough, Electra went even further. First, she snapped and called Dylan the B-word, which was ugly all by itself. And then, in the middle of all that rage and hypocrisy, Electra hauled off and slapped Dylan. At work. In the workplace. Over personal drama. Come on. That is not a little loss of temper. That is a full public meltdown. And the thing that really gets me is how fast Electra crosses the line while still acting like she's morally superior. That's her pattern. She gets controlling, she gets self-righteous, she gets mean, and then when people react to her behavior, she acts like they're the problem. It's so tone-deaf. And in this case, it is especially bad because the Forresters have spent so much time talking about the Spencers like they're violent, dangerous, impulsive people who bring chaos everywhere they go. Then here comes Electra, right there on Forrester Creations' property, slapping a coworker in the face because she's mad about a guy she already dumped. So, from there, I think the real story is not the slap itself. The real story is what Electra does next, because this did not feel like the end of her spiral. It felt like the beginning. It felt like the moment where she stopped pretending she had the upper hand emotionally and started showing just how threatened she really is. And when a person like Electra feels threatened, honestly, that's when she gets dangerous. So, first up, I absolutely think Electra is going to do everything in her power to make sure Will never gets involved with Dylan, not because she suddenly realized she loves him in some healthy, romantic, ride-or-die kind of way, but because she cannot stand the idea of him moving on without her permission. And there is a difference. A big one. People keep confusing possession with love on these soaps, and honestly, Electra is giving possession. I could totally see Electra slithering back to Will just enough to keep him emotionally trapped. Not a full reunion. Not anything generous or clear. No, that would be too straightforward. I'm talking about teasing him, hinting, dangling the possibility that maybe later, maybe once things calm down, maybe once the Forresters chill out, maybe once the whole mess around Eric blows over, maybe then she could take another look at him. You know, classic emotional breadcrumb behavior. Just enough hope to keep him from moving on, but not enough commitment to actually rebuild anything. And that would be so on brand for her, because Electra has already shown that she likes Will best when he's yearning. She likes him when he's begging. She likes him when he's crushed and waiting and focused on her. She does not seem nearly as interested when he has options, or when another woman sees his value, or when he starts remembering that he does not actually have to sit around like some loyal puppy waiting for Electra to decide whether he gets to have a life. That's when she panics. So, I suspect one of the first moves we'll see is Electra trying to lay down a totally absurd condition for Will. Something like, if you get close to Dylan, then don't ever expect me to take you back. And honestly, you would think Will would hear that and laugh, because what exactly is she offering him here? More mixed signals? More emotional whiplash? More judging him for things she gave herself permission to do? But Will has tolerated a whole lot from Electra already, so I can absolutely see her trying it. And the reason I think that tactic appeals to her is because it lets her feel powerful again. She doesn't have to actually reconcile with Will. She doesn't have to apologize. She doesn't have to own that she dumped him and created this opening in the first place. She just has to make him afraid that if he chooses Dylan, he loses some hypothetical future with her. It's manipulative. It's selfish. And honestly, it's the kind of emotional hostage situation Electra seems weirdly comfortable creating. And if she does that, the subtext is basically, stay lonely until I finish deciding whether you still belong to me. Which is just wild. I mean, picture the entitlement of telling a single man he cannot move on because the woman who rejected him might someday maybe possibly be interested again. That's not romance. That's ego management. Now, another possibility is that Electra tries to punish Dylan professionally almost immediately, because once she realizes she can't just scare Dylan off with an insult and a slap, she may decide the next best thing is making Dylan's life in Los Angeles impossible. And this is where the workplace angle becomes really interesting because Electra's violent outbursts did not happen at some random party or on some street corner. It happened on Forrester Creations' property. So, if Dylan goes to Ridge and Steffi and tells them that Electra slapped her at work over personal drama involving Will, that creates a huge problem. A huge one. And not just morally either. I'm talking optics, policy, culture, liability, all of it. Because Will was already fired for violence outside the workplace, right? That was a big talking point. The Spencers are reckless. Will is dangerous. Everybody clutch the pearls. But Electra committing violence at work is objectively worse from a company standpoint. And honestly, the Forresters have been talking out of both sides of their mouth for a while now. They want to paint the Spencers as aggressive and unhinged, but their own people keep throwing hands. Ridge hit Bill. Brooke hit Katie. RJ sucker punched Will at Bikini. Electra slapped Dylan at Forrester Creations. And let's be real, the list is not exactly helping their "we are the classy, stable side" argument. It's becoming a whole hypocrisy parade. So, I wonder if Electra's instinct is going to be to fire Dylan, or at least try. I absolutely think she will want Dylan gone. Gone from the office, gone from Bikini, gone from Will's orbit, gone from every place where she can smile or breathe or exist. That kind of all-consuming jealousy usually does not stop at "I'm mad." It escalates into "I want this person removed." But the problem is, firing Dylan after Electra assaulted her could backfire so badly on the Forresters. Because then it starts looking like the company protects the aggressor and punishes the victim. That is exactly the kind of workplace culture issue no fashion house wants floating around, especially when there are already whispers and accusations about the environment over there. If they push Dylan out after she got slapped, it does not just look petty. It looks toxic. And here's where it gets trickier. Ridge might be tempted, because Ridge has been so wrapped up in the anti-Will sentiment and this whole loyalty framing that he might decide Dylan being close to Will is enough to make her a problem. Even though, let's be honest, that is personal stuff. That is not a work performance issue. That is not grounds for discipline. That is just the Forresters having absolutely no boundaries between their family drama and their business decisions. But then there's Steffi. And Steffi owes Dylan. And Steffi is the one who hired her. That matters. So now Steffi is in an awkward position. If she backs Electra blindly, she risks looking unfair and complicit. If she backs Dylan, she risks exposing Electra's behavior and creating more family friction. And since this family treats every disagreement like the opening shot in World War III, that is not a small thing. Honestly, I think Steffi may try to thread the needle at first. Maybe she does not fire Dylan right away. Maybe she scolds everyone. Maybe she calls it unacceptable across the board. Maybe she tries to calm it down and keep the company out of the headlines. But if Electra keeps pushing, and I think she will, Steffi could end up getting cornered into making a decision she does not actually want to make. Now, here's another layer that I do not think the show should ignore, because it says so much about Electra's pattern. This is not the first time she has gotten physical. Not even close. People are acting like this slap came out of nowhere, but it didn't. We have history here. Electra hit Luna twice. And the first time was when Luna was pregnant. At the Spencer mansion, Electra hit Luna so hard, she knocked her down to the ground. That is not a cute little soap slap. That is serious. And yes, to be fair, Luna was always provoking Electra. Luna knew how to push buttons. Luna was messy. Luna was not exactly an innocent woodland creature tiptoeing through town. But provoking someone does not magically make it okay to hit a pregnant woman. It just doesn't. And then Electra slapped Luna again right before Luna was arrested. Maybe Luna was not pregnant that second time, okay, fine. But that still means Electra has a pattern of responding to frustration with violence. So when the Forresters act like Will is the monster and Electra is the endangered innocent, I'm sorry, but I'm just not buying it. At this point, Electra is the danger.
She is.
That doesn't mean everybody else is perfect. It just means the narrative they keep trying to sell is not matching what we are watching. RJ provokes Will constantly, and everybody shrieks when Will reacts. Luna provokes Electra, and somehow Electra still gets framed like the delicate wrong party even when she's the one using her hands. The double standard is glaring.